morning to one and all present here. My name is Vandana Nishad from Advocate Balasaheb Apte College of Law, and I will be speaking on the topic, separation of powers, is judiciary threading into the domain of legislature? On 15th December 2016, a Supreme Court bench headed by the former Chief Justice T.S. Thakur with the aim of doing complete justice ordered a ban on sale of liquor within 500 meters of state and national highway throughout the country by 1st April 2017. The aim of this judgment? To reduce the number of drunk accidents across the highways. And with this perceived public interest that literally overrode the tremendous collateral damage that such a decision would cause, the Supreme Court passed a legislative order. The judiciary here has trounced upon the basic ideals of separation of power enshrined in the very constitution it seeks to protect. Though the doctrine of separation of power is not adopted in its absolute sense, but it forms a part of the basic structure of our constitution. And apart from preventing the concentration of power in one hand of the government, there is another pragmatic reason for such a separation. That is, the task of each part of the government are different and complex. They require expert individual and specialized system. But the judiciary now, through its activism, has not only assumed the role of lawgiver, but that also of a lawmaker. From being a mere interpreter and enforcer of the laws passed by the legislature to actually interfering in the lawmaking process, it has crossed its limits and encroached into the domain of legislature. And there are several instances of it, right from its interference in the economic matter, which belongs solely in the domain of executive and legislative bodies, like the one in 2G Spectrum case, where it ordered a cancellation of 122 telecom licenses without taking into account the economic impact that that would make. To interfering in censorship of movies, like the one in Jolly LLB2 case, where the judgment was in direct violation of Cinematography Act, which does not confer any power to the courts to either alter or modify any part of a film. And the logic, the justification that they are giving for such interventions is that it is only when there is a legislative underreach does the judiciary interfere. And is it possible for them to ignore the concerns of the people when the other arm of the government is not taking care of their own responsibilities? But even with this reasoning, ask yourself, is this democratic? In a democracy, the highest power that a citizen holds is the power to vote, which acts as an incentive to these bodies of government to either work or at least pretend to do so, or else they will be thrown out of power. But that is not the case with the judiciary. You cannot do that to a judge. There have been barely some instances where impeachment proceedings have been initiated towards a judge, which is as complicated as that of a president of our country. If a judgment is passed by a judge, which is met by backlash of people, is there something, anything these people can do about it? These handful of people who cannot be held accountable, who are not elected by the people, by the citizens of our country, have arrogated to themselves the power that basically, the role that basically belongs to the legislature, which represents the will of the people. Judiciary's interference in the legislative matter started with the purpose to provide justice to people, irrespective of the existence or absence of law, to fill the legislative vacuum. A very good example of which is Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan, where the Supreme Court issued guidelines with regards to sexual harassment at workplace, where a temporary law was imperative, and that is exactly what the Supreme Court did. But today's scenario is filled with instances of judicial intervention which cannot essentially justify their needs. There is a need for accountability mechanism, or else we will be witnessing a tyranny of unelected in a democracy. To quote Voltaire, with great power comes great responsibility. And it is the responsibility of the judiciary to uphold the powers within constitutional framework and ask itself whether its intervention really is necessary in every matter when there is another arm of the government which can do it better and with the mandate of the people. Thank you.